today we are in discussion with Professor P.R Mukund, who is a Professor Emeritus at Rochester Institute of Technology, New York. But he is an eminent Vedic scholar who has written a number of books on Vedic thoughts which are relevant to our modern times, which are relevant to our day-to-day lives. Today we have the privilege of discussing his thoughts on his new book, Numbers and Symbols in Vedic Thought, on which he will inspire us, he will give us revealing thoughts on how we should conduct ourselves in our current stressful life. All his teachings and all his literature have a day-to-day relevance. So in this way, this talk is going to be really interesting. Kindly glue in. So Professor, good morning and very welcome on this show. It is actually a privilege and honor to be in discussion with such a Vedic scholar who has made his mark in the world of technology, world of engineering, and still sticking to the Indian roots of Vedic scriptures and Vedic thoughts. So without much ado, we'll start. And so Professor, what motivates you into the world of Vedic scriptures? If you can give us some bit of background, that from engineering, from being an eminent professor in an eminent US university, to be inspired towards Hindus very old Vedic scriptures. What actually motivated you? How the journey started?
Yeah, so at the outset I have to make a couple of corrections. All these superlatives, I don't consider myself a Vedic scholar. I consider myself a student of what I would refer to as Vedika Vijnana, which is Vedic science, because it is a science. We can talk about that later, but it is a science. That's point number one. Point number two is that there is somehow always this feeling among people that Western science and technology is modern. And somehow Vedika Vijnana is very old. So then you say, okay, I'm living in the present world. So how is something very old relevant today? This is a confusion that many people have. But as I'm sure you know, our dharma, our way of life, our way of thinking, not just life, our way of thinking also, we refer to as Sanatana Dharma. So Sanatana doesn't mean old. Sanatana means eternal. So something that is eternal, not only is it relevant today, it will be relevant 10,000 years from now also, right? So there is no time boundary on that. So the Vedika Vijnana, and from that what we have derived, which we call Sanatana Dharma, is actually something that is eternal in time domain, but not just that. It also doesn't have what we call Desha and Kala. Kala means time. Desha is space, a physical space. So it cannot be valid only for Debasis and Mukund. It should be relevant to somebody in Russia, China, Japan, America, wherever, for humankind, right? So this is something that is valid for humanity forever. So in that sense, that question actually doesn't arise whether it is modern or not. That question doesn't arise. To answer your second question, which is what is it that, it's like, again there's an assumption that they are two different things. The fundamental assumption is this is something different, that is something very different, and therefore if you are very involved in this, how come you are involved in that? Right? But the reality is that they're not different. Actually, they're not different. And I can give you two statements related to that, which is that matter is matter. right? You're not going to change that. Now, suppose I take your phone, mobile phone, I open it, inside there's a chip. Okay? By the way, that's my area of expertise. So anyway, you can open that chip and say, how does this work? There are billions of transistors, they're all talking to each other, doing some random things, and out of that, the phone will work. So somebody, some engineer somewhere or a group of engineers sat down and designed that. So they just took matter. Even a transistor, it's a silicon. Silicon is sand. Now you cannot take a bunch, go to the beach, take some sand, put it together in a box and try to talk to somebody far away. It's not going to work. So it has to be put in a particular form so that it becomes transistors, it becomes chips and all that, and then it will maybe do something. Correct? That transformation, right, from the causal material is silicon. But the end product is your mobile phone. So someone had to take that causal material that is there, it's already there, and transform it into this particular form. That's point number one. Similarly, if you look at the Vedic Vijnana, the Vedic science, right? Like any science, it is a fundamental set of rules. The Vedas, people sometimes ask a question and say, how old are the Vedas? That question actually doesn't have meaning if you look at the proper definition of the Vedas. Today, if you look at Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Samaveda, Atharvana Veda also, Vedavyasa, 5,000 plus years ago, he put it in this form, that's all. It doesn't mean that if you go back 6,000 years, there are no Vedas.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Because Veda, that word, the Veda, when you say, if somebody asks me, what is Veda? Just define, give me one sentence define, what do you mean by Veda? It is eternal truth. So it has to be true for all people at all time. So the collection of those truths is Veda. So if you express something in the form of poetry, it's Rig Veda. If it's in the form of prose, it's Yajur Veda. And even in music you can express it, it's Samaveda, right? So the question is not how you're expressing it, what are you saying? That's more important, right? So that the way it is expressed might have changed. So if you ask me 6,000 years ago, was this there in that form? I'll say no. So if you say, was Rig Veda there as we know it 6,000 years ago, I'll have to say no. However, or at least most of it was not there. However, if you tell me, was Veda there? It's always there. Always there. Now, here's the question. If it covers everything in matter and beyond, surely engineering and technology, which is only relating to one small component of that, right? It has to be in that too. Now what happens is, then the people will say, okay, show me when they'll give an equation or something and say, show me where is that equation in Rig Veda. We're not talking about equations. We're not talking about some theory or something like that. We are talking about the essence of the foundation on which this thing stands. And if I may give you one very simple example related to this, the entire field of electronics, which is my professional field, right? The entire field of electronics it's called electronics, right? That means electron. Then there's a neutron and a proton, right? But if you look at the Vedic thought process, we may not call it electron, proton, just because, look, suppose today, instead of calling it electron, I call it some other name. And I say, no, knowledge doesn't exist. You didn't have this before that, because you're using a different name. I can do. So in nature, there is Sat, Rajas and Tamas, and this electron, proton and neutron are nothing but particles that follow Sat, Rajas and Tamas. That's all, right? So they're not different. And matter of fact, it's unfortunate that nobody taught me that when I was young, when I was studying engineering. Nobody told me all this. I sort of discovered it through my guru much later in my life. I wish I had done this much earlier, and I think that I really wish that today people in all walks of life, not necessarily engineering, you could be a journalist, you can be doing something else, whatever it is, all of our thoughts, action and speech, right, together form the karma. And that karma is something that is to follow dharma. And that is what is explained in all this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's profound thought. If I may say, I know that you are dismissive of these kind of superlatives, but anyways, and secondly, this is your third book, which I understand, number and symbols in Vedic thoughts. Now, if I may, know that if you can enlighten us on this topic, that why do you choose actually this particular topic? Because numbers and symbols are pretty much, at least many people may not know about numbers, but symbols are pretty much part of Sanatana Dharma, and we are all used to have all kind of Vedic symbols part of our daily lives. So what inspired you to write this book on this particular topic?
Yeah, well, in the first place, our rishis, if I may use that word, anytime we use the word rishi, people think of somebody 5,000 years ago sitting in the Himalayas with a big beard and eyes closed. There are rishis among us, even today, right? So you may not, their image may not fit your definition, but they're deep thinkers, right? They're very deep thinkers. A rishi is not just one who, that is tapas. A tapasvi is a person who contemplates very deeply. A rishi is a person who has had what we call spurana, that is, truth has occurred to him. But before it occurs to him, he better do the tapas. Otherwise, even if it occurs, he doesn't even know it occurred. Right? Yes, so only when you have done the background work, right, and contemplated on that for a very long time, and thought about it, the truth someday will occur to you. So see, this is why in the Vedas, not just Vedas, in our tradition, there are two broad categories. We call Shruti and Smriti. Right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So the Vedas and all that is Shruti.
Yes, sir.
Smriti is what somebody thought of. Right?
Yes.
So they don't even, our rishis were so egoless. Right? They would not even take credit for things that occurred to them and which they gave to us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's how great they were, right?
Yes,
they don't even take credit. They'll say, no, I didn't think of it. It occurred to me.
Yes, sir.
But before it occurred to him, he would have spent like 10 janmas, thinking about it.
Yes,
right?
Sir. Yes,
right?
Yes.
So he doesn't talk about that. He only talks about what occurred to him, right?
Yes, sir.
So this is the greatness of our tradition,
Yes.
by the way,
Yes.
right? Nobody taking credit, right?
Yes.
But going back to the original thought is that if you look at, either you look at Shruti or Smriti, both of them are combined together all our literature and all that, right? It actually has lessons for all of us, except one problem. Today, most of our scriptures are in Sanskrita, right? Or what the Western people call Sanskrit. It's actually Sanskrit. Sanskrit becomes Sanskrit. It's wrong pronunciation. Anyway, whatever. People don't even know the language. To start with, you don't know the language. There is Lipi. Sanskrita doesn't have any Lipi. Today they use Devanagari, but over time people use many different Lipis. So many of the Lipis people are not familiar with. Even if they're familiar with the Lipi, even if they know the language, even then, if you read that, you may not understand what's going on. That's true of any subject, right? For example, I don't know anything about medicine. Suppose I pick up a big thick book on physiology. I know English, That doesn't mean I can read that and tomorrow morning I can become a doctor, medical doctor.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Right? Because I need to have the background, education, to understand what's in that.
Yes, sir.
This is true of our jnana also. Absolutely. So for people to think, no matter what your capacity is, and no matter what your background is, you should be able to just pick up a book and read that and understand everything is foolish. Because you're not going to say that about any other subject.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes.
Mathematics.
Yes, sir.
So suppose you don't know, suppose you, last time you saw mathematics was in middle school.
Ah.
Right? You cannot take a big treatise on mathematics, open it and you see long equations. You say, hey, this has no meaning, man. I say, why do you say that? Because I don't understand it. Your inability to understand something doesn't remove the meaning from it.
Yes, sir. Yes. That's quite important.
You agree?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So anything I don't understand is not meaningless,
Yes, sir.
right?
Ah.
What is important is for me to go to that level where I try to understand, right? So the thing is that in that process, what happens is they use words, right? And words, unfortunately, has different meaning in different. Like if you go to Odisha, I'm sure, if you go to different parts of the state, same language, same word will have different meaning.
Yes, sir. Yes. Pretty much true.
Right? That's true in every state. I'm from Karnataka and it's true in Kannada also, right? Any language is true. You go region to region, the same word will mean something else. Point number one. Point number two, over time the meaning changes. So if we express an idea or a thought in a given language, in a set of words, after 5,000, 10,000 years, it may mean something different. So our people thought, okay, let's do something about this. We cannot avoid using words. We'll use the words, okay? But let's give a couple of calibrations for this, okay? One calibration is the number. See, for example, if you look at our alphabet, right? You say ka, kha, ga, gha, nya, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So each one has a number. So if I want to express an idea and I look at those words and I look at where it is in that alphabet and add that, it will add up to some number. So if I use that in the thing, suppose I have some other interpretation, it will result in a different number. They'll say, no, that's not correct meaning.
Yes.
Veda is full of this, full of this. Now you wonder, oh my God, how can in lakhs and lakhs of things, how could they do this? How is this even humanly possible? Well, the answer is, it is not humanly possible. That's why we say Vedas are apaurushaya. Right? Apaurushaya means it was always there. It will always be there. And Vedavyasa, many of us consider to be an incarnation of God, because no human being could do this. It's impossible. 18 Puranas, Mahabharata, and all the Vedas, goodness. How can you do that? How can anybody do that, right? No matter what your lifespan is, how can you do that? So, apart from whether you accept Vedavyasa as Bhagavanta or not, that's a matter of faith. But irrespective of that, we have to agree that this numerology plays a very, very important part in understanding the words. Number two, symbolism. You go to a temple, right? So you go to a temple and you see a murti there, okay? And then you see that this murti has 4 hands. You'll say, I don't know anybody with 4 hands. What? So you say, so you should start thinking about that. Why does this thing have 4 hands? What does it mean? And also it's holding different things in these hands. Who walks around? Like, do any of us going for a walk, will you hold one lotus in one hand and one gada in another hand? No, you won't do that. So, which means that it is symbolism. So, you have to focus on that and say, what does that mean? So, when you do that, these words will have meaning, will have correct meaning. That's why this is very important. Today what has happened is that many of us, Even I don't claim that I know all. I know whatever little I know about all these things. I find that people have lost the knowledge to a great extent. I'm sure there are people who know, I'm sure. But your everyday person who is pursuing quote unquote normal life doesn't know all this. And therefore that person is missing out. So that's why in this book, these are small books, it's in English. There's not even one stanza of Samskrita in that.
Yeah. I have gone through that book, not a single line.
No, not even, because you don't want to, the idea is not to impress people. The idea is to transfer knowledge, right? So if you understand these things, next time you go to a temple, why do I take bananas? A simple thing. People go to temple, they take fruits, they take bananas in particular, they take coconuts, they take mala, flower garland. Why? What does this mean? So when they understand these things, next time you go there, you do that, you do it understanding why you're doing it. And therefore, the phala from that is much higher.
Okay. That's one interesting way of putting it. But so that takes us to the next question is that, in our daily lives, actually, in daily struggle, daily strivings, we have almost lost all the knowledge which, Vedic scriptures have given us. So this is a way of conveying that, knowledge to our, to our generation, to our younger people who should know about Vedic thoughts and Vedic scriptures. But, one immediate question comes to our mind, as you were a professor, suppose I am doing something, the viewers who are viewing us at this point of time are engaged in various professions. So, in their daily life, what is the relevance of those symbols and those numbers, so which they can replicate in making their life easier, less stressful. What is happening in the current world, young people, very stressful life, chasing something which they feel meaningless at some point of time. So just want to understand what is the relevance of these profound Vedic thoughts in our daily life, and if you can enlighten us that how we can actually practice it in our daily life, so that we'll make it a, if you can say that we'll have a easier life, stress-less life. If you can enlighten on that topic, please.
I don't think anybody can actually have a completely stress-free life. That's not possible, okay? Because we're all human beings, okay? That's not possible. So it's not a 0-1 game. It's not like you don't know anything and you're stupid, you're worthless, horrible life, and suddenly you learn something, read a book, buy a book and read a book, and suddenly you know everything and you become a happy person, It's not like that, right? However, it's a gradation. The only question we should always ask is, am I better off today than I was yesterday? Or am I better off this year than I was last year? And so on, right? So when we look at health, health is very important, obviously, right? So if you notice that, if you look at your grandfather's generation or great-grandfather's generation, say about 100 years back, right? Or even in our own lifetimes, if you look at people you knew, like your father, your mother, father, grandparents and all that, it should be obvious to most of us that they had much less material wealth. When I was a kid, in my house there was no car, there was no phone, there was no fridge. None of those were there. But I don't think our lives were any way worse off. Actually, I would claim that our lives were better. So if you say that, then you say that, so these people were common, they lived up to 80s, 90s, 100s, they never went to hospital. Today, every other day, people are getting sick, and, the number of people today who, like, there's in Bangalore, I'm from Bangalore, and there's one cancer hospital called Kidwai Hospital, okay, 50 years ago, just one. And even then nobody, like if you went there, there's no cars parked there, nothing. Today, every location has oncology. And people are just going there, and so all these things are spreading, right? Now you may say, is it because of food? Maybe partially, but it's not so much what you eat, it's what happens to it after you eat it. See, people are very particular about what they eat. They're very, eat millets, eat this, eat that and all that. The question is, what is the processing after you eat? Right?
Yeah.
So the thing is that this is true not only physically, it is also true mentally. Mentally also it's true. So just like you eat food, you get ideas, you read things, you hear things and so on. So question is, what happens to that? So what you get is actually during that processing time. In Sanskrit we call it pachana, right? So when it's getting processed, for example, our theory, I guess I call it theory, says that when you eat food, just when you eat food, any food you eat, it is divided into three parts. One is things not needed and it's sent out, right? Forget about it. Then there are nutrients which our body needs. So it extracts all those nutrients and sends it to all the muscles and bones and wherever in the different parts of the body. There people stop. They say, what is the nutrition in this? What is it? But there is a third component according to our theory. You say, what's the use? I'm telling you, there's a third component, and that third component is the energy in that food. The energy in that food. Like, who prepared that food? What was that person thought when they were preparing the food? Did they do it for you? You know, a simple thing, if you follow the Vedic thought, suppose somebody, say, my wife makes something, suppose, right? She prepares something. There are one of two ways she can do that. The same thing, she is going to do the exactly same thing. She can make it for me and say that, oh, I hope he likes it. I hope he enjoys it. Or she can prepare the same thing and say, I'm going to prepare this for Krishna. I hope Krishna accepts it and he likes it. Now, once you offer it, we take it as prasad. Same food. She is doing exactly the same thing. I am eating the same thing. There is a huge difference in the energy. Huge. Right? Now the question is, you say, how does that affect my health? Question, right? According to our Shastra. So that energy in your food that you are eating, right? That energy is extracted and it goes to three different places. One is it goes to your bone marrow. And you know what happens in the bone marrow? That is where the white blood corpuscles are generated that will fight infections. Immunity. Right? So if the energy is good, your immunity increases. Otherwise, we have to ask ourselves, when I was a kid, 50, 60 years ago, we didn't have all this bottled water and all these things. We'd be cycling somewhere, on the roadside there's one pump, so we will pump that thing and drink the water. Nobody filtered any water, nothing. What happened? Nothing, I'm still around, right? Nothing happened. So the question is, our bodies had that ability to fight germs. Number one. Number two, that same energy will also affect your mind. See, that is why we say that eat sattvic food, don't eat tamasic food. All this. So the difference is not in the nutrition content. It is in what energy it creates in you. So there are certain things that will get you excited. So we call that, no, that is tamasic food. Some things will calm you, say, that's sattvic food, and so on. So it affects your mind. There's a third thing which also, unfortunately, you see in society, the result today. It also affects your reproductive organs.
Yes, sir.
50, 60 years ago, everybody had like 10 kids, 12 kids and all these things, right? Fertility was never a problem.
Never a problem. Yes. Yes.
But today, every street corner has a fertility clinic.
Clinic. Yes.
Why?
Yes.
It's a question, why?
Global problem. It's a
Yeah,
global problem.
yeah. So when you ask me how is it useful, I'm telling you this is how it's useful, right?
Yes.
So when we look at these things, whether you look at symbols, for example, just symbols, for example, Shankar and Chakra as an example, right? You say one is, so in the first place, we don't even know what I'm after. See, most people, they struggle, and they don't know what they're going after. That's very stressful. That's very, very stressful. So people will say, oh, that fellow has this house, that fellow has something else, and so on. So society is defining for you what you should go after. But society changes. If you live in America, which I've done for 50 plus years, society tells you certain things you should go after. If I live in India, they say something else. If I live in one community, they say something else, and so on. In different social structures, economic structures, they say different things. So do I just go based on that, or is there something that applies to all of us? And yes, there is something that applies to all of us, for sure, right? And this, what you call Chaturvidha Purushartha.
Yes. Purusha.
Purushartha, Purusha Artha. Artha means resource.
Yes.
Purusha, you and me, right? Chaturvidha, there are 4 types. So if we understand that and you say, oh, so that's what I should go after,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
If that is true, that's what I should go after. And what are they? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. So first I have to understand what those are. And then I can go after. At least now I have a goal, a destination, which is real. And another interesting thing, Debasis, is that these 4 Purusharthas, right, that was true 10,000 years ago, it's still true. It is still true, and it will be true in the future also. For our children, grandchildren also, it will be true, right? So as long as we understand this, then there's less scope for confusion, stress. It removes a lot of stress. Like for example, I'll just give one simple example, which is that if I go after resources, right, you may say, oh, I want to earn money. I want to earn a lot of money. The fad now is to have a startup company, right? Everybody wants a startup company. So you say, okay, fine. What do you mean by that? If you don't start it, there will be no company. So every company is a startup. So if you don't start up, there's no company. No, but that's not what they mean though. Actually, it's a hidden meaning. The hidden meaning is this. It's not the startup thing. What they're not telling you is what it is. I just want to start. I don't want to make it grow. I don't want to make it, those things are very difficult, I don't want to bother with all those things. I don't want to become a Ratan Tata, all this. And I just want to start something. And the part they don't tell you is I don't want to make it grow. So before anything happens, I want to sell it to Debasis, get his money and go.
Okay.
That's a startup, right? So these, and even government says, oh, we have so many startups. We in Bangalore, we created so many, they proudly say we have so many startups. But every startup company, if you look at the business plan for that startup, you know what is the most important thing in that? Exit strategy. They're just starting and they'll say, how do you get out of it? So first thing the investor will ask you is, what is your exit strategy? What is your strategy for growth and what is your exit strategy? That means before anything can happen, get the hell out. Don't get out. Grab somebody's money and get out. So the goal is to make money. That should not be, that's not dharma. I also did a quote unquote startup company in 2008. It's still running. Employs hundreds of people. I never made any money from that. I invest money, I never made money so far. Because we never try to exit. We never try to sell. but it is creating hundreds of jobs. Actually, I don't want to get into that, but it's centered around disabled people. It has created so many jobs for disabled people. Even to this day, as I speak, it's happening. I'm no longer in that, I came out, but it's still happening. So that is dharma. So I get pleasure from that. I don't get money from that, but I have enough money. So how much money? So this balance between dharma and artha, right? What gives you more pleasure? Suppose I sold a company and I made $10 million, suppose. I don't know if I'd have been as happy as knowing today that for 18 years, hundreds of people have taken home a paycheck. Now that gives, and I have enough to live. I don't need millions. I'm happy, I'm fine, right? So this balance between dharma and artha, you go to any mandir, you go to Srimurti, there is chakra and there is shankha, and it's balanced. If I don't know the symbolism, I'll never know this.
So, but in one of your chapter, you actually, have explained the about external influences, and you have also mentioned about social media. I mean, we all know that it's all, as you have just pointed out in our earlier conversation, that you have a certain goal which society defines for you, and you chase on without even understanding what is the purpose of doing it. But there are external influences. You have also written in that book, a child when he is born and son gets the senses, then he has been fed that what you should be. So from the childhood, that kind of mental conditioning happens. So in that book, in this context, I want to understand that from this book, what kind of inspiration a person should draw so that he will he can put his own brain on own mind and soul in before doing something, and be at least, may not be completely free of external influences, but at least kind of mitigate that kind of impact, because we have seen in this social media era, people are more kind of hell-bent on showing the things than actually enjoying it. So if you can give us some view on that topic which you have mentioned, written in the book. Yeah.
Couple of aspects I can think of. One is that one of the reasons why many people feel miserable, even though externally they seem to be successful. So you look at a person, he'll have a good job, he'll have making good money, he'll have a nice family. It seems like he has everything, but still is miserable. So you say, what is your problem, right? Why are you not happy? On the other hand, you see somebody selling some vegetables on the street who has not even 1/100th of what I may have, but that the person seems very happy. Selling vegetables, the person is very happy, or selling bananas or so. So I say, man, this dude is selling just bananas and he's happy, and I'm a high-tech executive. How come I'm not happy, right? Actually, this has been the same thing. I can give you examples from a Vedic literature perspective also, but that will take more time, so we'll stick to the fundamentals. One of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons is that there is a clash between what we call Svabhava and Prabhava. Svabhava means your nature, your internal nature. Prabhava is external influence. So the question is this, right? The important thing is, do you want other people to say that you are successful, or do you want to say I am successful? This is important, right? This is important. And I have to answer that question to myself, because if I feel I am successful and I say so, I don't care what other people say. But that requires a certain bit of fortitude, certain amount of, because if people go, yeah, look at him, he's not successful. After 10 times they say that, maybe let me first take care of them. So first let them say I'm successful, then I'll work on me saying I'm successful. There's no time for all that. Because no matter what you do, there is somebody who's come and say he's an idiot. So how many people are you going to satisfy? First your family, friends, and now this social media. That's a total disaster, complete disaster. Because if you look at 90% or more of what you find of people, like they go on vacation, they go to Goa or somewhere, they'll stand on the beach and they'll take some nice pictures with the ocean and they'll put it in whatever, Facebook or something. And what happens is about 1,000 people will look at that. And you are sitting in your office working on the computer. So you see this idiot standing on the beach. So you say, why am I sitting here doing on the computer? Look at that idiot, he is having fun. And when I was in school, I was smarter than him. Or something like that. You do some comparative thing. I say, actually I'm better than him. But he seems to be enjoying it. Actually he may not be enjoying himself. He just took that picture, that's all. Now what happens is, you are thinking negative things about him. So what happens is, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. He will not feel good because there are 1,000 people thinking negative things about him. Negative energy is hitting him, right? So this, even if he has the whole ocean behind him, he'll still feel lousy. He'll come out and fight with his wife or something will happen and he won't be happy because that energy is not good. On the other hand, you say, why is that banana fellow happy on the street? Because nobody is wishing him anything bad, right? And yeah, Papa, you give him some bananas, you say, okay, thank you, and all that, you buy some bananas, and he may even give you one extra. God bless you, and then you walk off, right? And even the people who buy it, some people at least they'll have compassion. They'll say, I have so much in Papa, poor guy, he's not as fortunate as me. And some of us may even share something and say, please take this because I have too much of this and, so please accept this. So people actually have positive thoughts towards him. So he is happy. But society says, hey, he's just selling bananas, man. What kind of success is that? Right? So we need to understand that it's not about what social media, it's not about how many people put thumbs up. It's not about how many people put red hearts. That doesn't matter. The question is how many people are sending good thoughts towards you. That's important. Now, if you want to do that, then the question I have to ask myself is, whatever I do, first question I have to ask myself is not what's in it for me. The only question worth asking is, if I'm doing something like if you're doing this interview, the question is what's in it for me? I should keep asking what's in it for Debasis. That is Dharma, right? And if I keep saying, how can I take advantage of Debasis? That's a Dharma. Simple definition. Very simple definition. So if you can make this shift, if this book can influence even 2 or 3 people to make this shift, I think it is worth writing the book.
Okay, that's nice way of putting it. Nice. But I'll just go little off the mark and ask you this question because in Bhagavad Gita, the Karma Yoga,
yes,
we call about Karmanyavadikarastu Mahapadesu Tarachan, and where actually Lord Sri Krishna gives the jnana to Arjuna and says that Niskama Karma, without the getting the result you should work, without being attached to the result you should work. Means how do you see that concept in our in the context of this book?
Okay, so that whole that statement of Sri Krishna, this is Karmanya Vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. That one sentence, that's the first part of that sloka, first part, right? He didn't say don't have desire for outcome. It doesn't say that. When you talk about Nishkama Karma, Nishkama doesn't mean no desire. Everybody has desire, man. Like if we do this interview, I'm sure both of us are hoping that at least one person will watch it. Otherwise, what's the point in doing all this? So we have it, and if 10 people watch it, we'll say, hey, not bad man, 10 people watched it, right? or 100 people come and say, this affected my life, you say, then it is worth doing. Right? So, how can you get rid of desire? You cannot. And Krishna never said you should. He never said that. What did he say? He used the word adhikara. Karmanyeva adhikara. Adhikara means having ownership. Not to the outcome. His thing is, look, if something has to happen, you don't have ownership over the outcome. So don't think that only if, like, okay, if somebody comes and says, will you do this interview thing? I'll say, only if you can guarantee me 1 million views. Otherwise, I won't do it. Then you'll never do it.
Yes.
Because you'll never get the 1 million views, you won't do it. So you use a useless life. So his thing is, look, when you're doing the interview, don't worry about how many people will watch. That's all. It doesn't mean you don't want people to watch.
Yes,
See, there's a difference between the two. You don't have adhikara on the outcome, that's all.
Yes,
Right? Ma phaleshu kadachana. You don't have adhikara over that, but you have adhikara over your karma. So understand that you have adhikara over karma, do it well, do it as Hariseva, and leave the outcome to him. That's all.
Okay. So, I think the discussion is, kind of being kind of engrossing at this point of time. But, I will then, on the, coming back to the book, there are 7 colors, there are 5 elements, there are 8 forms of wealth, there are 10 traits of success. So, there is a whole gamut of symbols and numbers which have been described very beautifully, and the most interesting part is this has been described in a form in which I and you can relate. So, but want to understand that why these kind of, where do you actually get the motivation or the inspiration of searching these kind of things about 7 colors, 8 traits of success, or the Savatara. Okay, these things have been, I think most of the practicing Hindus know it, but they never understand it. I think most of us don't understand. So, where do you actually get a sense that actually you should write these kind of things and convey the meaning, to the people or to the society?
The main reason is that we were just talking about karma. Karma has 3 parts. Okay? Say kaya, vacha, manasa. Right? One is action, speech, and thought. So, question is, if I want karma phala, that is, I want fruit of my labor, right? And nobody does something and says that it should not result in a success. Who says that, right? Whatever I do, I want it to be successful. It doesn't matter what I do, I want it to be successful, right? The question is, when I'm doing this karma, do I have control over the action? No. I may want to do something and something may happen, I may not be able to go there, I may not be able to do something. Some physical impairment, whatever can stop me. Speech, so many times we all know, it happens every day. I sit down to do puja. Sometimes, some sukta or something like Veda sukta, I know this, I chant this every day. Every day I chant this. And I've been doing it for God knows how long, right? But something wrong will come out. Something wrong will come out. I don't mean to do that, right? So which means you don't have control over that either. How many times have we all thought, forget about Ved Sukta, how many times we'll say something to somebody and as soon as if, even while you're saying that, you say, I should not be saying this. I should not be saying that. You know that, but still you say it anyway. And as soon as you finish saying that, why did I say that? Why did it come out of my mouth? So you don't have control. But ichha, the thought, you have some control over it. Even there you don't have total control. But at least some intent. Like I said before, we are doing this. Papa, so many people, you are taking your time. See, that's why I look at it. My thing is, poor Debasis, she came from somewhere, took the trouble to come all the way. I look at Chandru who's doing the recording and say, I don't know his name, but they came from somewhere. Papa, they're spending their time. He's taking time off. He's a executive in a company. So many people are contributing. So the least I can do is put my whatever little I have to make it successful, so that they are successful and their time and money and all that was not wasted, right? So the focus is always not about me, it's about others. Because every single thing I do will impact other people. So it's not about how does it affect me, what is the karma phala for me, what is the karma phala for others, right? So in that sense, I'll just say one thing, which is that you probably know this, but in our Shastra it says that for anything to be successful, it takes 3 types of Shakti, energy, right? One is Ichha Shakti, internal Ichha Shakti. Then, but that itself is not, you should know how to do it. The second thing is Jnana Shakti, and the third one is Kriya Shakti. Okay, I may want to do something, and let's say I don't know how to do it. I go ask my guru and say, how do I do this? Guru again doesn't mean somebody with a beard. It's somebody who teaches me. In that knowledge space, he is the guru, that's all. So he'll teach me, right? So I learned from him. So now I have Ichha Shakti, I have Jnana Shakti. How about Kriya Shakti? Kriya Shakti is things falling into place, things coming together, right? My guru cannot do that, I cannot do that, right? So many times it happens. I want to do something, I know how to do it exactly, but I try and it fails. Something happens and it fails. Question is why? And where does that Kriya Shakti come from? Call by whatever name, he is the one who gives you that Kriya Shakti. Now, I'll use I hope nobody gets offended by this, just in a joking way, I'm saying, not seriously. Krishna was in Dwarka, right? You know that. Right? So I'll say, Krishna is a good Jew. I don't mean to be offensive. He's like a businessman. So if he invests some Kriya Shakti in me, he'll say, what is the return on investment? Not return for him because he doesn't need anything. What is the return on investment for other people? So if I say, give me some Kriya Shakti, and say, okay, fine, I'll give you some, what will you do with it? I'll do it, use it for myself. No good return on investment, he'll give you a small amount. But I say, no, I don't want anything. Whatever you give me, I will use it for well-being of other people. He says, here's a good return on investment, so he'll invest more Kriya Shakti there. So the best way to grow is to always ask yourself, not what's in it for me, but what's in it for others.
Yeah, that's nice thought actually.
And it works. I tell you from experience, it works. And again, the same Krishna said in the same Bhagavad Gita, he gave me another, so you say, if I do that, then what happens to me? Who will look after me? He said, don't worry. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janaha paryupasate tesham nityabhiktanam yogakshemam vahamyam. He said that, right? So he better live up to it. So if I live like that, he better look after my yoga and kshema. And he does.
So my last few questions, but and this is little practical question, is that our Gen Z, means not generation like you or generation like me, those people who are in their teens, okay, and they have a very different childhood than what so what you had, or which I had, or which many people had, but so their exposure to Vedic thoughts, our assumption is that is very low. What is your, may not be advice, but at least a suggestion, means to their parents, that what parents should do to give them these thoughts early in their minds, because they are now exposed to so many things. Correct. At this point of time, as you have pointed out, social media, our social media exposure is, I think, 100 times lower than those people, those Gen Z's, exposure.
Yeah.
They are more prone to external thoughts at this point of time.
Yes,
So,
yes.
what is your advice or what is your suggestion to their parents? What is advice? What is your advice to the Gen Z?
Yeah.
How they will relate to this book?
I don't know how anybody will relate to the book, but I'll answer the question a slightly different way, which is, I, who am I to give advice to parents or anybody else, you know? But my suggestion,
Yeah.
my suggestion is this. My experience, because I have 2 daughters and 5 grandchildren, okay? So I'm fortunate, thankful for that. And my experience has been, they don't do what you tell them. They do what they observe you doing. So it's the kind of life you lead. That's all. You live a particular way. And then they'll ask, Appa, why are you doing this? Why did you do this? They'll say, oh, this is the reason I'm doing this. Right? They'll say, oh. And at that time, they may not do anything. But 20, 30, 40 years later, actually, I can tell you from experience, my daughters, they're both mothers, they have children of their own, and they actually do that. They were raised in the US, right? So sometimes people are very surprised. They'll say, one of my friends asked me, so how did you train them like that? I didn't do anything. I just lived my life a particular way. That's all. And sometimes they would ask, why are you doing this, Appa? Why do you do this? What is your thought behind this, and so on? And they will try sometime. They will try, and if it makes sense, then they will follow that. Eventually they'll follow, they'll come back to it, right? So my thing is that first, we need, as parents, grandparents, you know, we need, see, I cannot, the best way to deal with Gen Z, as you call it, or whatever, right? You can put whatever label you have, young people, right? See, the best way to, I have a grandson who's 12 years old, okay? So when I'm with him, the best way to deal is not to act like a 12-year-old. See, people do that, they say, oh, I want to act, you want social media, I'll also do social media, so that, no. He is expecting something better from you, okay? He's not expecting to become an idiotic teenager, okay? He is expecting something more from you. So the thing is that I need to show him that I have something of value. Because value is important, right? Yeah. See, why are you even sitting here talking to me? Only because you think there is something of value. If there is no value, it's a waste of time, man. Why do this? So in every single thing that we do, we just have to share. For example, let's say you go to a temple. It's a silly example, okay? But once a week, let's say you go to a temple. So your son or daughter will say, you can drag him there. Because no, you better come. You drag him there. The moment you have no control over him, he'll forget about it. On the other hand, you don't drag him, but you go to the temple. So you tell him, son, I'm going to the temple. So he'll say, okay. And then after 10 times, he'll say, Appa, why are you going to the temple every week?
Yes.
Why do you do that? You better have an answer. If your answer is because my dad used to do that, you'll say, okay, your dad was stupid, you're stupid, so I'm not going to do it. So, you better have a good answer. And you say, no, if you do this, this is the benefit for me, which I can apply in my daily life. That's And after some time, one day he'll say, can I come with you today? And very casually say, sure, if you want. And once he gets that experiences that, he's stuck. So always it's not what you tell them. You cannot tell them, you have to do this, you have to do that. Because the moment they're doing it out of fear and control, right? The day you step out of the house, and by then you would have become old, right? So then they will start telling you what to do, right? So to not do that, to carry on this tradition of knowledge, we have to first understand. Again, it comes back why you asked me why you wrote the book. This is the reason I wrote the book. So that people can answer these questions when these children ask.
That's nice way of putting it. Absolutely, my last question is that if you have to give a practical guide or something like if I ask you that give me a daily routine in my stressful and busy life, I have a corporate job or I do XYZ, yeah, and I don't have much time or something like that, yeah. And I have a family, I have faith in God and I'm God fearing or whatever. So if you have to give him a daily routine, that how you can inculcate these good practices into his as part of its habits, his or her habits. As I just pointed out, the parents have to actually do it in action so that the younger generation will actually emulate them. They will understand the relevance, they understand the significance. So you have to give a practical guide. Give me 1, 2, 3, so that which I can practice. Look, this is my question. I want to learn,
Yeah.
whoever. Suppose people who are here that I have made professor. He has given you 1, 2, 3 things. I will do this 2 minutes. I will do this 5 minutes, or I will do some yoga. I will feel happier. So if you have to give this, then what will be your advice?
Yeah. I'll just change your question. I'll give the answer, but I will change your question a little bit. You said, what can I do? I'll make me happier. The question should be, what can I do that will make other people happier?
Yes. Yes, you always have a different way of doing things like Lord Krishna.
No, seriously. No, you're saying,
Yes.
see, again, you bring it back to you, right?
Yes.
So,
Sorry for that.
okay, having said that's okay, that's okay. So, the same question was asked. Same question was asked by Yudhishthira to Bhishma in Mahabharata, right? When Bhishma was about to pass on, right? So, at that time, Bhishma told Yudhishthira, whatever you do, don't do whatever, right? There's one thing, if you can spend 15-20 minutes, just 15-20 minutes every day, that will help you a lot, and that is chanting of Vishnu Sahasranama. So you can do that while driving to work. First start listening, just play it,
Yes.
just listen. You may say, why? Why is that? Well, because there is, in the Vedas, there's something called Brihati Sahasra. Okay? So people would do yajna, chanting Brihati Sahasra. It takes hours and hours and hours. So what they have done here is every word comes from one stanza of the Brihati Sahasra. There are 72,000 nadis, energy flows in your body, not center, flowing. That affects your whole sharira, whole body, right? Just the sound, even if you don't understand a single word of Vishnu Sahasranam, the sound is such that if you chant it every day, properly you should chant it, right? So you can say Vishnu, not like that. Clearly say Vishwam, Vishnu. You should clearly say, if you do that, it will cleanse all those energy things in your body. And it will have a tremendous impact. And again, going back to the thing, both of my daughters, one is a professor, one is a lawyer, but even to this day, every day they chant Vishnu Sahasranam. Not because I told them to, because they've seen the benefit from that. And because they're doing that, someday, hopefully, their children will do it too. And this is not my thing. This is Bhishma told Yudhishthira in Mahabharata. This is not my theory. Okay, that's one side of the thing. Another thing which all of us can do every day, always look for opportunities of doing something for someone. Always. And it's not that difficult. It's really not that difficult. Okay, I'll give you one example, kind of silly example, but there's a restaurant very close by, Udupi place, okay, a small place, okay, but very tasty food, very tasty, not expensive and all. So we go there sometimes, and So one day I went there, I think I had gone with my wife, and I bought something, and that's a small place. So people will come sit at the same table. If there's a chair, somebody will sit. So I'm sitting there eating my thing. So this fellow comes and he had bought lunch, like a thali. Thali he had brought. So it's got all kinds of nice things, and I'm eating my thing, and I'm looking at his thali. I say, not bad. There's so many nice things in that thing. So when we finished, I went to that guy, and the fellow who sells the ticket, the owner, manager, I said, how much is the thali? He said, 90 rupees. I earn in dollars. I live in US. That's $1. So I said, So for $1, you can get this full thali. Then there is on this side street, there are some people who sell food. I've noticed these auto rickshaw drivers, all these people come and eat there. So I found out they sell for 40 rupees or something, but they just get some food because they don't want to spend 90 rupees. That's a treat for them, right? So I said, I just went to the guy and said, give me 10 tickets. Because that's 900 rupees or whatever. That's $10 for me. I spent $10 on all kinds of random things. So I just got that. I went outside, and there's some lady selling something. I said, here, you take the ticket, they'll give you a meal. Go eat that, right? So I gave it to them. Then I enjoyed so much doing that. You ask him, every 2-3 days, I just go there and buy random tickets and just hand it to people, and it makes no difference in my lifestyle. Zero. It doesn't affect my lifestyle at all, right? So it's not about doing big things. Everybody wants to do big things. I want to build some dharmashala. See, you're not going to do that, okay? But when you have 10 rupees, just 10 rupees, okay? Give something to somebody. Because that smile on that person's face, right? Even though you're not doing it for selfish reason, you should not, and you're not. But trust me, that will always come back. In electrical engineering, we have a fundamental, we teach in the first course, it's called Kirchhoff's law.
Okay.
Kirchhoff's law says, when there's a bunch of things connected to one node, suppose I bring 2, 4, 5 things, whatever current goes in has to come out. Okay. Simple, okay? Whatever goes in comes out, right? So similarly, in my life, whatever goes in has to come out, or whatever goes out has to come in. So what comes out of you, that's positive energy. You do it for others. Trust me, it will come back. But that's not the reason you're doing it. But Kirchhoff's law says it will come back. It will come back from the universe somehow. You'll be taken care of. Because Krishna said, your yoga, your kshama, I'll look after. And trust me, he will.
That's, so let me summarize for our viewers, means practical way of what Professor has suggested. I think we all can inculcate that in our life. First is Vishnu Sahasranama, chant it. If not possible, then listen to it daily on daily life. And don't leave a slightest opportunity of helping others. If you leave your life for others, there is a great way, that positive energy will come back from the universe. So, Professor Mukund, this is an honor to speak to you and discuss in the intricacies of the book. I know that there are many things which we have left out. We don't have actually the video format, don't have the time for those kind of things. I will request to all our readers to go fetch that book and read it. I think this is a book which has real practical relevance in all our busy lives. Thank you and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Master.